3, 2, 1.
Whose camera are we on? Obviously.
Better not be on there.
Yes, good. I didn't hear the go.
Yeah, go.
Hi, folks.
Yeah, go.
What?
Yeah, go.
Hi, folks. Welcome. This is my bad hair hat day. This is our YouTube Live. Tonight's topic is hand planes and all things related. I'll do a little bit of demonstrating for you, too. I also asked Rick Irvin to come in tonight and Ken, because both of those guys do the plane preps that if you buy one of our planes. And I thought they might have some input. They can answer a few questions. Moose is here. Moose is back. The Moose is back. Chris is here with us. Chris Davenport, who works as you are an engineer. Works for a company called RPC, and they've done a lot for us. In fact, big player now in production of our saws. Moose is, Jake's here, obviously behind the camera, and Frick's over there. And we just had a wonderful meal, thanks to my daughter, my wife, and my daughter-in-law, and whoever else was in there, Chloe. So let's start right off. Frick, give me a question, please.
All right. First question comes from...
How's the audience, by the way?
We have 242 already. That's pretty high.
So I'll start making some announcements when we get a little up.
All right. First question comes from Dan Vasquez in Jefferson, New Jersey.
Hey, Dan.
Are there any hand planes that you think are just gimmicky and not worth buying?
Well, I'll get shot for saying this. Yeah, the low-angle jack. Ugh. Do not like it at all. Too light. I don't like trying to make the adjustment down underneath. It's a low angle. Low angle meaning the bedding angle is at 12 degrees. And the bevel's on the top side. So that means it's sitting really low, and you've got your adjuster knob underneath there. And if you've got a large, even a medium-sized hand, it's difficult. It doesn't have near as much surface area on the side as a 5.5 does. So when it comes to shooting, you don't have much reference surface at all. And if I didn't already mention, it's too light. It wasn't a really popular plane when it was made by Stanley back 100 years ago, because they didn't make them for that long, and they're extremely rare in the antique form. So that's one. That's really not a gimmicky plane. I just don't like it. The compass plane, I just took mine out. What did I do with it, Jake?
I didn't see it.
Yeah, it was sitting up there, and I moved it to put something else in. Shoot. Somewhere in here, there's a compass plane, and that's a plane that has a flexible sole.
Right there.
Where?
Underneath the drawer on the left.
There it is. And this isn't gimmicky, but so are you on? So you could make this so that you could either do a concave surface, or you could turn it the other way and you could do a convex surface. And it'll work, but it's not as good as I would like it. I bought one for a piece of furniture that I designed that had I needed it for, and it just, I just felt that it left a little bit lacking. But I mean, if you don't mind sanding after the fact, I can't. Well, there were a lot of planes made that didn't work extremely well. I shouldn't say a lot, but the number 45 doesn't seem to be terribly popular just because it was so complicated, and a 55, which came with all those knives. You kind of have to figure when you can buy the 55 and all the parts and pieces are there and it looks like it's never been used. It came with a manual that was thicker than that, and I can only imagine people bought it, they got it home, they looked at the manual, and they said, oh, I'll do that later, and it never got done. If it was heavily used, you wouldn't find them in antique form, all the pieces there, so that's my guess. Next, Rick.
All right. Scott Hobbs in Iowa.
Hi, Scott.
What kind of steel is the best for a hand plane? A1, A2, or something else?
Well, I used to argue about that a whole lot more than I do now. So when I was selling Lee Nielsen, there was always the battle because they offered both. O1, which is oil hardened. Chris, you know anything about this?
Enough to be dangerous.
Okay. Well, if I say something, you can pipe in and do so. And then there's A2, which is air. It's not air hardened. It's air quenched. So, but a little bit I know is they take a piece of steel, they heat it up to a certain temperature, and then if you rapidly bring that back down to room temperature, It changes the molecular structure. The austenite particles become martensite, I think, not the other way around. Anyway, it goes from being malleable to being hard. And there was always argument, what's better, O1 or A2? But what never made any sense was the argument for O1 was that it was easier to you could get it sharper, but you had to sharpen it more frequently because it wouldn't hold an edge as long. Well, if I could take an A2 blade and sharpen it and then run it over a piece of hardwood and you cannot feel how it could be improved, meaning that's as smooth as you can get it, smoother than any grit of sandpaper, then if I could do that with a 30-second sharpening, why would I choose a blade that had to be sharpened twice as frequently? That didn't make any sense. That means you gotta take your plane apart. So I always thought A2. Lee Nielsen introduced me to cryogenically treated A2, and Chris Schwartz wrote an article about that, kind of a summary article where he took all the technical jargon and kind of melted it down so that an average person could read it, me. And it made a lot of sense. And what they do is instead of just quenching it to bringing it down to room temperature, they drop it down to some really cold temperature. They hold it there for a certain amount of time. They temper it a couple of times and blah, blah. End result is you're supposed to have a blade that wears better, stays sharp longer. And I don't know. I sometimes think you have to be a metallurgist to be able to tell the difference. I use both the standard blade that comes with the Wood River plane, which is similar to A2, and I use the IBC cryogenically treated A2 steel blades. Those are the ones right here that are a little bit thicker, and yeah, they'll both work. So I don't think I can't honestly tell you that I would go running out to buy any blade that's currently on the market thinking that I was going to gain 20% more usable time because of it. So for that reason, I don't think there's any one that's better than any other. Next, Rick.
Okay, next one comes from Peter in the USA. He says, can you use a 78 duplex plane instead of a Skew rebate plane?
Well, so what Peter's talking about is a plane that looks like, I don't have one, but I thought I had something here that would look something like it. Yeah, this is a stretch to try to say this looks like it, but it's an all metal plane and it's got a Skew blade in it. But the big advantage to the Skew block plane, which Jacob, does Lee Nielsen even have them available right now? No. They've seen a huge price increase. The single biggest difference is this one has a fence that's built onto it. So when you're wanting to cut a rabbet on the end of your board, well, here, I'll show you this because I just did it. If you're cutting dovetails and you want the advantage of having that little wall to help register the two pieces, then what you do with the Skew block plane, once you've set the blade, and the blade, when I say set the blade, you want that blade to be parallel to the sole all the way across so that you're removing a shaving that is the same thickness from left to right. This is really advanced. Now, this was a Lee Nielsen improvement because the original Stanley number 140, I'll show you the rest of it. Is it in here?
Somewhere. No, I think it's in the one without a drawer.
Over there?
One of those without a drawer.
No, I thought I saw it in here. Unless we moved it. Yeah, there it is. So when you buy a 140...
That's a lefty.
It is?
I think.
It comes like that. And if you want to use it as a block plane...
It is a lefty.
Then you would take that off, and you would use it as a block plane. If you want to use it as a Skew block plane, or rabbiting block plane, then you put the fence back on. Lee Nielsen added this, and the original didn't have it. And now you can go in. Now, by the way, the wooden part, which we actually provide, the wooden part is an addition.
We don't provide.
Right. Well, we provide, but you have to provide your credit card. So what I do is I put the fence, in such a way that it allows the edge of the blade to be right on that gauge line, and then I lock it. And now, instead of me having to, I mean, you could do this same procedure with a shoulder plane, but you either have to jig something up or you're trying to run that like so, and it's easy to do right now because I've already cut that, so it's right, it's got something to ride against. But if you were just coming and wanting to do the initial pass, well, it's going to be a whole lot harder. With this, you simply go in there with that fence. The shape of the blade, or the angle of the blade, pulls the plane this way, which makes it really easy to keep everything tight, and you end up with a nice rabbit on the end of your board. Now, when you cut your dovetails, you set one piece on top like that, and it holds it perfectly positioned. There's no guesswork. You can do the same thing with the yellow, oh, what's it called?
Automotive
refinish
masking tape.
And that'll do the same thing. And then when you're done, you just peel it off. So it's almost a great substitute for the Skew block plane. And the other nice thing is you don't have to actually alter anything, because when you use the Skew block plane, you have to take into account that you've just changed the dimension of the piece out here. Whereas with the masking tape, you just peel it off when you're done, away you go. Next, Frick.
Let me see. Okay, next one comes from David Cardillo in Australia.
Hey, David.
And he says, what is the best plane or planes for flattening warped slabs?
The best plane for flattening warped slabs. Well, if you're talking about a big hunk of wood, that being the warped slab, I would suggest that depending on how big it is, if it's that big, you can use your 5.5. If I don't have a piece in here, but if it's a lot bigger, if it's half the size of my bench, then you're going to want to use either the number 7 or the number 8. So the number 7 is 22 inches long. It's got a 2 3/8 inch wide blade. And the nice thing about that is all of these planes have the same parts. So your smoother, your jack, your foreplane, and your jointer. Same rear tote, same handle, same everything. So if you wanted to make a high angle blade, for instance, one high angle blade, you could use it in any of the planes. If you want the biggest that was made, then this is a number 8. Now this one is 24 inches long. This blade is 2 5/8 inches wide, and it's the only plane that ever used that width of a blade. So, and this is still 500?
Yeah, it was $4.95.
The Lee Nelson plane, this is $500. And I don't know whether they have them in stock or not. They've had a real hard time, seems, keeping stuff available. So that's what I would recommend. And the theory behind that is that the longer the sole, the more it's going to demand that all of the high areas come down first before you're able to plane the low areas. So if I had a board this big and there was a bit of a belly in here, I could come in with a small smooth plane and I could quite possibly plane that without disturbing the rest of it. Well, that's fine if you're just wanting to get it smooth. But if you're wanting to get it flat, then you want to come in with a plane that, and maybe this one's even better suited, you want to come in with a plane that's going to demand that this area and this area come down to this level before the blade will touch that. So, purpose of a jointer is to flatten or straighten. Purpose of a smoother is to smooth. It takes a lot of skill to get this perfectly flat with that plane. Whereas it still takes skill, but less skill is required when you have that long body helping you. Good question. Next one, Frick.
Ken Boys in Southampton, Ontario.
Ken Boys, I just talked to Ken today.
He says, can you show us how to install one of your adjustars on a Wood River plane?
Thank you, Ken. It's a wonderful question.
Commercial.
What's that?
Commercial.
Yeah, right. So here's my number 6. So what Ken's talking about is something that Jake and I worked on. Do we have any of the early ones, Jake? I think they're over there. I'll just show you on this. once you hit your 50s, if you're anywhere near the Canadian border, then you're probably experiencing a little bit of arthritis, especially on cold days. And when I was hired by Woodcraft to help them develop their hand plane line, one of the things that I insisted upon was that they make this adjuster knob. Jake, have we got one of those close at hand? That
A Stanley?
a Stanley that has the really small one?
What's wrong with either of those?
No, they became even smaller. Some of it, I don't know what period of time this took place, but Stanley in their planes had an adjuster knob that was about 3/4 or less the diameter of that. And
In inches. Was it an inch?
yeah. I don't think it was an inch. Anyway, so you would go in and try to adjust that. Now remember, first of all, in case you're a novice and you don't understand what this is about, this knob, when you turn it in a clockwise fashion as you're looking at it, it pushes the blade down so you take a thicker shaving. When you retract it, it pulls the blade up. But it has to operate under the tension of this thing called the lever cap. And that's purpose is to keep everything in place and not allow that blade to vibrate. Well, if you've got a small diameter adjuster knob, you have no leverage, and you have to actually stop and use two hands to move that thing, and it's a real pain, because when you're doing this, when you're using a shooting board, when you're working on a piece of wood, it's nice to be able to do that on the fly. So I was insistent that they make this as large a diameter as possible, because if you remember from your physics class in grade 9, the larger the diameter that is, the more torque it's going to provide. And I also asked them to make the knurling really deep. So the knurling are these cuts along there to allow your finger to get some grip. But even at that, it wasn't satisfactory. So on my Lie-Nielsen, I took a triangular file and I just cut deeper grooves in it, just so my fingers would have more of a bite. But it still was not satisfactory. So we have a chamfer plane. Did you ever get the parts back for it? It would be really nice if you did. I bought a chamfer plane. That was a Stanley number 72 or 72 and a half. I think it's a number 72. And the chamfer plane, if it was all the pieces were here, I could show it to you. Jake can take credit for that one. It's two pieces, and the sole has a V, is cut in the shape of a V. So if you wanted to cut a nice chamfer on here, even, you would adjust the front portion of the sole to the rear portion for the amount of the depth that you wanted, or how wide you wanted that chamfer to be. Well, anyway, the knob that they used to lock it was a spoked adjuster. So we got the idea of making that for the adjuster knob. So we now make them. We make them for. We make them for Stanleys, we make them for Lie-Nielsens, and we make them for Wood River. And we did a beta test on the Stanley, and what percent?
95.
95% of the Stanleys that we tested, it fit. Stanley's tolerances weren't that great. They manufactured parts all over the place. So we were kind of concerned that it wasn't going to fit all of them. Anyway, so I need to put one on my number 6. That's a little bit of the history behind this thing. Actually, Paul Hayton up in Ontario, who is our resident genius, Paul has this manufactured for us, and it's just ideal. I have people email me, call me on a regular basis saying how it allows them now to use their plane where they couldn't before, just because they couldn't make that adjustment. And really, really advantageous. Ask Ken. Ask Ken how much he likes his.
Frick, get Ken a mic.
Oh, he doesn't have a mic. We should just have a mic we can throw around.
Second. Test. Oh.
Now, I'm asking Ken because Ken's a lot older than me.
I'm old and I forgot the question. Why I like the adjustar?
Well, yeah. How do you find the adjustar?
Oh, it's just night and day.
Game changer, isn't it?
It's a game changer. It makes something that's can be really difficult to do. It makes it simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I was about to say is I really like it on the shooting board, because on the shooting board where you're holding it like this, it's just you're just flicking it one way or the other, and you get lots of torque because you've got that big arm or spoke to be able to grab hold of. So in order to change it, probably I don't know whether you have to or not, but you can take the lever cap off, take the blade and chip breaker out. Do we have to take that out
Try it.
on all of them? You don't have to remove the rear tote on all of them. The number 6, you don't have to, I can tell.
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure.
You're not putting the adjuster
Yeah,
on.
I got it. No, you don't think so? Oh, that's what I forgot to grab. Rex.
We don't have any.
Never mind. So you remember now, this is a reverse thread, so you normally would spin that way to get it to go on. You're going to do the opposite. Yeah, you have to take it off. That's considerably larger diameter. So you hit your toe. You don't have to take the whole thing off. You just have to take it off enough, or loosen it enough that you can just move it sideways. Now that means you'll have to take the toe screw out. And by the way, you want to be careful because it's real easy to chew up these brass screws, especially if you're using a regular screwdriver. We turn that far enough sideways. So we'll put that on. Now when you're doing it, you've got to engage your yoke as you're bringing this in. There you go. That's all there is to it. If you're looking for one piece of kit that will make the plane that you currently have easier to use, I would venture to say that is it. Okay, next Ken, or next Frick.
Just before I read the question, we wanted to give a shout out to Dave Weber, who is joining us.
Oh, is he?
He always makes every episode, even now that he's in the ICU with COVID. But he's still here.
Oh, he's got his iPad.
Yeah.
Hi, Dave. I've been reading you, following along, so it's good to see that you're getting better. I think in this room, you had COVID? Oh, well, he's joined. Rick, you didn't get it? Nope. Oh, I was going to say everybody in this room. The only ones in this room had it then was Frick and Rex and Jake and I. Rex just joined us. Ken hasn't had it. You guys don't know what you're missing. Anyway. Yeah, you feel left there. Dave's on the mend. Good on you, Dave.
All right. Question comes from Scott Bradley in
Prayers answered.
Athens, Alabama.
Scott?
Scott Bradley in Athens, Alabama.
Hi, Scott. Oh, by the way, hold on just a second. Let me pump Dave up a little more. So Dave joined our bench brigade. How long ago? Jack's on there.
2
He could
years.
tell us. So we didn't have a whole lot of Canadian. In fact, we had very few Canadian bench brigade members. Bench brigade is headed up by Jack Lane down in Texas. Jack's a retired Air Force. I think he's an E9. Jack and Chris Shahusky, and what they do is they pair up civilian volunteers who agree to procure the materials and build a bench to our specs and deliver it to the combat wounded vet that has been in our class. And when possible, they actually make it so that the civilian volunteer can actually deliver it in person and get to meet the vet. So we needed one for Sean Pedler. I'm pretty sure Dave volunteered and built Sean Pedler's. Sean's in Ontario, and Sean was Canadian military police. He was one of only 4 Canadian combat wounded vets that we'd had up until this last class. So big shout out to Dave, did a wonderful job, and thank you, Dave, we appreciate that. Okay, Frick, next.
Okay, questions from Scott Bradley from Athens, Alabama.
Hi, Scott.
He says, do you find that the average woodworker, that the IBC chisels and plain A2 extra thick steel is worth the expense?
Well, yes, on the chisels for sure. Chisels are the most I can't think of another tool that crosses all disciplines of woodwork than a chisel. So whether you're a rough carpenter, a trim carpenter, a cabinet maker, furniture maker, pattern maker, all have to have chisels. And a chisel, as simple as it is, when you think about it, it's a piece of sharpened steel with a handle on the end. If it's made well, then it's a pleasure to use and it's a very accurate tool. If it's made poorly, it's nothing but frustration. So I don't care whether you're a novice that does this once a month or whether you're a professional that does it 6 days a week. The better tools make it that much more pleasurable. So yes on the IBC chisels, well worth the money. You're never going to replace them. You buy them, it's going to last you and several of your posterity. So don't worry about spending a bit of money to get something that's going to work really well, and you're not going to find something better a year down the road. As far as the blades go, do we even have them? No. I can't say that about the blades just because the price has got to a point on the blades where it's approximately 3 times the price of the standard Wood River blade.
No, it's only double.
Huh? Aren't these 20?
Well, with a chip breaker, they're 50.
But just the blade.
Well, yeah, but we don't sell just the IBC blade.
So
Double.
double?
Yeah.
Okay, even if it's double. If it's double, that means it needs to last twice as long, and that's not the case. Meaning the cutting edge is going to last twice as long. So they're nice, they're thicker. That's 140 thousandths of an inch thick versus 125. And they're polished and they're nicer looking and yada yada. But when it actually comes to cutting, and I'll prove it to you tonight, I don't know. Definitely in the chisels. I'm trying to be honest and at the same time not discourage people from buying IBC blades, but you just need to be aware that you're not going to get a blade that is twice as good for twice the money.
Super Dave wants me to comment on how sharp they are.
He would.
He's a savage.
Give them the think, oh no, you can't.
Ready for another
Super
one?
Dave's on tonight?
He is. I think we got the whole crew here.
Yeah? Tell me who. Oh, yeah. That's right. So if you're one of our, we call them our vets. If you're one of our vets, please speak up so we can give you a shout out. I'll give the first one to the GOAT, the New York GOAT. GOAT stands for the greatest of all time, Super Dave Benson. Everybody want to clap?
I think I have I thought I had an applause button.
Do you have an applause button? We just made it. We just did it for you.
There we go. They can hear it.
Ah, yes. Take a bow, Dave. Who else?
Ken, do you want to?
Ken, are you watching for that?
Yeah, I haven't seen.
I know Jeff O'Connor's here.
Hey, Jeff.
And Bobbert is here.
I'll talk about Jeff and Bobbert and Kevin separately in a bit. Waiting for the audience to build. So if you've been to one of our classes, if you're a combat wounded vet that was one of our scholarships, then you have to go in the chat and you go Ken. You go at the symbol Ken, and then just say I'm so and so and I was in whatever class, and then Ken will tell me and we'll give you a shout out. You need to be recognized for your service, and this is just a little drop in the bucket what we do here, but at least give us a chance to recognize you. What else, Frick?
Question?
Yep.
Oh, show them. Ahmed wants you to show them the mallet.
His mallet?
Yeah.
Is he feeling left out?
And
And?
in the corner.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's good. That's on topic, too. Well, so first of all, can we go down there?
Yeah.
So you need to know who Ahmed is. Ahmed...
You mean Amid?
Ahmed. If you're Luther, Ahmed is a good friend of ours, very good friend of ours. Came to our class and just salt of the earth. Really, really good guy. He gets and understands the PHP, and it's wonderful. So Ahmed is also the what's the word? No, if you procure stuff, Moose, what's the word?
Importer, exporter?
No, if somebody's able to go and find stuff. What would you call someone who procures things for you?
A procurement person. Yes.
Well, that's not what the one's looking for, but I'll take it. So in this
Yeah,
corner,
he should be an importer-exporter.
That is what he does.
yes, but he works for Vandelay Industries, I think.
He's a latex salesman.
Yeah, is he latex? No, I saw him on the ground one time. You can't sell latex for me. So Amid finds this wood. So this is my corner. This is my stash. Nobody's allowed in here. And this is the wood that I source for when I make saw handles. So I just got this one the other day from him. So this is a nice big thick piece of shedua. Have we even sold that one yet? Oh, we did.
I think we did.
Beautiful piece of wood. Beautiful wood. That's some English walnut. Oh, I gotta put my glasses on. Just kind of give you a little go. This is another piece I just got from him. This is a piece of East Indian rosewood. Now it's oxidized a little bit, so once we freshen that up, it'll look great. Oh, there's a piece of, I didn't even notice that. Oh yeah, a piece of figured schedule. I already had that. We got some quartered koa. We got some kingwood. We got some beautiful Macassar ebony. Some of the most colorful Macassar ebony I've ever seen. We got some Vera wood. That's all snakewood right in that pile. This stuff is Baston walnut. That's a new piece that just came. And this is Paufero. Haven't worked with that. Knew about it, but haven't worked with it. Down here, we've got some black and white ebony. We've got some madrone. We've got some zircote. Oh, this is a piece he just got. So this is Ambonia burl. It's really expensive, unbelievably expensive. And I got to cut around some wormholes, and I got to check there. But I'm sure I can get a handle out of it. That'll be incredible. And then there's another piece. What was this called, Jake? I don't even remember. There's some pink ivory. I got a bunch of pink ivory. Oh, it's stacked over there. And I've got some Claro walnut. And I've got some Gaboon ebony. So that's who Ahmed is. So the other thing he did for us, we've been hunting. So in our rink / classroom, we wanted to have a display of all of the Stanley Bedrocks that were made. So Stanley, if you don't know what a bedrock is, that's the plane that allows you to open and close the throat without taking the plane apart. And you can tell a bedrock because it has, well actually this isn't true because the first years I didn't think they had this. They're typically squared off or flattened off here at the top instead of round. They have 3 screws back here, and that allows you to access the locking mechanism so that you can move the frog forward or pull it back. So they made a 2. Do we have a 2? Yeah, we did. They have made a 2, a number 3, a 4, a 4.5, a 5, a 5 1/4, 5 1/2, a 6, 7, and an 8. So the only one we hadn't found was a 5 1/4. And we just got this in the mail. Med just sent this to us. Have we paid for it yet? Probably not.
I'll send him money this week.
So this one's in really good shape if you consider that the Stanley decal is still on the Brazilian rosewood handle. I suspect that came out of a school. That's why there's a 21 on there. But somebody dropped it a long time ago. And you can see, remember, that was the disadvantage. And we will dovetail this into a little talk about plane construction. So Stanley, even today, makes their planes out of gray iron or cast iron. Well, it's breakable. And as you can see, somebody has dropped it, and they've broken that cast all the way through. In fact, it's even cracked partially over here. So you couldn't use this with any degree of precision because there's just, I can actually flex that. But for our purposes of display, it's great. And it looks like it was almost dropped the day that it was bought. And he sent us, that's another one. So here's a good example. Let me bring these back over and show you this again. So this was the Stanley Bedrock, and this was the 5 1/4. It was referred to as the Junior Jack. And this is the Stanley 5 1/4, which was just what I would call the consumer model. This is actually, the Bedrocks had a 6 in front of them, 6 and a 0. So this was a 6-0 5 1/4, whereas this is just a 5 1/4. And the easiest way to tell them apart is the fact that you see the shape of the top of the shoulder, where it's squared off or flattened off there. And this one only has 1 screw back there, because in order to change this one, you have to take this apart. I'll just do it real quick so you can see. So if I take the blade out, there's 2 screws right there that hold the frog in place. And if I wanted to close that throat down to tighten it up to prevent tear out on figured wood, I have to take this all apart and do it that way, which is considerably less precise than this. On the 604 and a 5 and a quarter, you see these 2 pins, and those pins are held in place by these screws back here. So you loosen those, and the center screw allows you to move the whole thing. Oh, by the way, one of the other big advantages of the adjustar is when it comes time to making that adjustment, you can get at the screw so much easier than trying to work around that round adjuster knob.
So did you tell them why it was called a bedrock?
No. Why was it called a bedrock?
Because of the bedrock that it sits on.
Oh, is that was somebody's theory, or is that actually?
No, that's.
Yeah.
I read that in it.
You read that?
That was 'cause
So
the
show them the
Flintstones
difference.
used it.
Pardon?
The Flintstones used it, I thought.
Show them the difference.
Oh, well, you want me to take it apart? Okay, all right. Anybody getting bored? Or are they enjoying
Well,
this?
this is
Just
why
me.
you want to plane.
Huh? Just you?
This is why you want to plane
Quieter, we'll
patterned
give you a
after
chisel.
bedrock and not a baling.
So if we take these apart, of course that never fits.
Compare the face of the frogs right now.
Yeah, just give me a second. You're getting ahead of me. I'll take the camera and you can do this.
You can't handle this.
You can't handle the truth. What did he say? Rip off your head and puke down your neck. So if you look at what Jake is so emphatically wanting me to describe, you see the face of the frog? It's not that much different, actually. But the face of the frog has got quite a bit of milled flat area that the blade sits on. Over here, it's all recessed out here, it's recessed down there. A little bit of a difference. So the biggest difference is underneath. So when we take these apart, this hasn't come apart in ages, so it might not come apart. Let's see if I can get it. I suspect it's just been seized. Oh, wait a minute now. I didn't undo those. That's why. So these are called frog retaining screws. Okay, so I'm going to show you the difference. It's actually good to have these examples. Now, what you want to remember is, what is the purpose of all this? Well, the plane is designed to hold the blade still, so that when you're cutting wood, that blade's not allowed to vibrate because of poor connectivity between the blade and the plane body itself. Well, if you look at the standard plane, let me just see if I can blow some of this crap out of here. Watch your head. Okay. So what do we have for contact surface between the frog and the body of the plane? Well, we've got this little pad right here, and we've got that little pad right there, and we've got that little pad and that little pad. So you don't have a whole lot of surface area. But if you look at the bedrock, you have this big milled surface sitting on that big milled surface. So you have all available contact area, and that results in a nice solid foundation, or a bedrock, to keep that blade from vibrating when it's being cut. Now I'm going to, at some point real quick here, I'm going to sharpen a blade and we're going to run it over and give you a little bit of a basic lesson on planes. Next question, Frick. Where's our audience?
We are almost at 800, actually.
Okay, well, I want to stop right there for a second. So I want to, I'm going to read this now. I'm going to read it twice tonight.
Frick, switch camera.
Okay.
So this came in, I didn't even explain what we do. I assume, unless you're really new, you don't know why we're here, but we have what's called the Purple Heart Project. Can that be, am I looking at that? I always want to look over here because that's where you people are. So we started this officially in November of 2016. And we started in Niagara Falls, Ontario. And I used to teach a class called Training the Hand, which was a 5-day, very intense hand tool workshop. We would do 14, 16-hour days. And the purpose of it was to introduce woodworkers to hand tool methods. Hand tool only, meaning we started with rough lumber and we built something using nothing but hand tools. Because of a chance meeting with a man named Jesse Paratus, who was a combat wounded Marine in Southern California, I felt like I needed to help these guys. And hand tool woodworking, I was actually speaking to a retired RCMP, which stands for Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and he suffers from job-related PTSD, and he was telling me how he recently got involved in hand tool woodworking, and he said when he goes into his shop, his little shop, and he starts doing this, he says he forgets about everything, and it's just a peace and a calm comes over him. Well, that's exactly what happens. Wood is good. Anyway, where's my story going? So we decided that each time we teach a class, we would save half of the spots for combat wounded veterans that would come as our guests. When I say come as our guests, that means that we cover their airfare, their hotel, their meals. But right from the beginning, it didn't make sense to bring them in and teach them this. A lot of them are not in a position where they have a lot of extra money. So you bring them in for a week and you treat them something that they really enjoy, and then they go home, they don't have anything to work with. So we scrounged, and people like Bob Lippick, or his wife Barb, made a huge donation that enabled us to send each one of those vets home with about $4,500 worth of tools. And when we say that, it's 4 or 5 planes, 3 or 4 saws, a full set of chisels, marking tools, the sharpening gear, everything they need to literally go home and build a piece of furniture. And that eventually got its name, the Purple Heart Project. You don't have to have a Purple Heart, but everybody knows what the Purple Heart symbolizes. And we've been doing that now. We've had 13, was August our 14th class or our 13th class? I think it was our 14th class. We've had 95 combat wounded males and females come and be part of our class. It's expensive. We don't spare anything. We feed them the very best. We put them up in a nice hotel. And as a result, bills pile up, especially the flights. Flights can be really expensive. We've had them come from as far away as Australia, Hawaii, and all over the United States and Canada. And a lot of people, when they found out about it and realized how it helped these people, wanted to participate. Well, if you live in Alaska, you're not going to be able to bake cookies for the guys that are here in Grand Bay, New Brunswick, having a class. But you can help monetarily. And knowing that you contributed you get that same feeling that I get when I teach these guys. So we have what's called, I don't know where I was going with that sentence because I already said it, but it's the Purple Heart Project. And if you would like to participate, and if you would like to make a contribution, we would welcome it. And this is what we use it for. There are no administrative fees. Everybody involved on our side does it as a volunteer. You can go on our website, RobCosman.com. Under the Purple Heart banner, there's a drop down. In the drop down menu, it says, "How can I help?" And you can make contributions. So this letter came in relation to that. And this is from Rick. No, Rick was, what's his brother's name? Do you remember? Find it for me, would you?
Yeah, I'll check Luther's email.
So,
I think it's Bill.
Bill.
At the bottom of the letter.
Bill Hintz? H-I-N-T-Z? Would you pronounce that Hintz?
Hence.
Hint?
Hence.
It's not H-E-N, it's H-I-N.
Oh, okay. He spelled it H-E-N in the email, so.
Well, this is Luther's translation, so that could very well be. We'll go with Hintz. So Bill's brother, Rick, was killed in Vietnam. And I'm going to read you the story. And this is his challenge that he put out there. Rick Hintz, a crew member in a U.S. Army Beechcraft Ju-218 twin-engine turboprop aircraft that was a highly sophisticated radio communications surveillance aircraft. Rick and his team began their tour in Vietnam in October of 1970. On the 4th of March 1971, they departed Po Bay Airfield at 0800 hours for another mission near the front lines. Their job was to intercept enemy radio traffic, translate it, and send it back to headquarters. U.S. radar tracked the aircraft throughout their flight, and they were in constant communications with their unit. At 8:40, just as they made a hard turn, all radar and radio contact was lost with the aircraft. They were most likely hit by an enemy surface-to-air missile. For the next 2 days, a 300 square mile area in contested area between North and South Vietnam was searched for the wreckage and the crew. At the same time, the North Vietnamese were searching for the valuable aircraft and the crew who served it. Neither the crew nor the airplane was ever found. The crew was initially listed as missing in action, known as MIA, but within 90 days were listed as KIA, or killed in action. Bodies not recovered. To this day, all other details of the flight remain highly classified. As part of the Joint Task Force full accounting effort, there have been a couple of visits to the believed crash site. On one trip, they did turn up a small piece of cloth material and a piece of wreckage. Beechcraft believes that the piece of wreckage is from that type of plane that Rick flew, but it cannot positively determine that. The U.S. government has indicated that the cloth material found is consistent with the type of flight suits that Rick and his team would have worn. However, no other material or human remains have been recovered. Rick was 23 years young, married, and had a son that was only 10 months old when he was lost. Rick's father, Francis, wrote a poem/prayer in memory of his son. Here are 2 stanzas from the poem. He may be lost to us on earth, but I am sure he has his place. Somewhere among God's legions, you'll find his proud and beaming face. God, you must have wanted someone special since you took him so early to your fold, while there are still so many on earth who deserve to have him to hold. It's been 51 years since Rick died in combat. Bill Hentz, Rick's cousin, sorry, I thought I said brother. Rick's cousin, who watches these live events, asked everyone listening to consider donating $51 tonight to PHP in honor of Rick and all the brave men and women who have served and continue to serve. So what a nice way to ask for money. But it's not asking for money. What it's doing is giving you the opportunity to help. And it's an awesome experience if you ever get a chance to be part of it. We always have, is Luther going to do his little...
I'm talking to him now.
Okay.
I'll let...
Every class, and the magic of the class happens because we bumped it up. We made the class big enough and we have enough help. We now do 14 in the class, so 7 civilians and 7 combat wounded vets. And the magic that happens is when you bring these tight-knit combat wounded veterans who don't know each other prior to, but instantly they have a bond among them. They intermingle with these 7 strangers, and by the end of the week, everybody's friends, and it's probably one of the keys to the healing environment that is created is having these civilians in there. And we always manage to get the right people, that they just know what to do and know enough not to ask questions, just listen when they need to talk. But fond memories of every class we've ever had, and I always think every class gets better than the one prior. Sometimes I don't think it's possible, but it keeps going. Our last class that we've had was August of 2021. Prior to that, all of our classes in 2020 got wiped out because of, bite my tongue, this illness that's around. And 2022 was wiped out, but last August, our province dropped all restrictions, allowed us to the borders weren't open, so it was all Canadian class, but we managed to squeeze one in, and then before we got to do the second one, they shut it all down again. So we had one class. There's some good news on the horizon, but I'll let Luther share that with you. So, go ahead and donate. You can donate as much as you want, and we promise that it'll all go to helping these, whether it's buying an airplane ticket, paying for a hotel room, or contributing to the tools that they take home. And we're always adding to that tool list too. We recently just decided we'd give them one of our small crosscut saws and a couple of other items. So can't do enough. Any vets speak up yet, Ken?
Yep.
Good. Let's bring back some memories. Pete Ambrose.
Kevin Burris.
Oh wait, we'll talk about one at a time. So Pete's down in Louisiana. Pete's in Alabama, Mississippi. Yeah, I got it. But Pete's one of my favorite characters that ever came to this class. In fact, Pete Ambrose is never far away. I don't know if he wants us to show this or not, but Pete promised me, and he left, that he would eventually get a perfect dovetail and send it to me. What?
Perfect miter.
Perfect miter, according to. So one day in the mail, quite an extravagant package came, and amidst all the lights and fanfare was Pete's dovetail that he sent to us. Pete served in Vietnam and stayed in the Army and served in the first Gulf War. And I believe Pete's son just passed, did he not, Jake? He did not that long ago.
I think it was 5 or 6 months ago.
Yeah, so our condolences to his family. Pete, we're always thinking of you, brother, and love to have you come back.
Luther's on now.
Go ahead, Ken.
Oh, I can't.
Just a.
Kevin Burris is on.
Kevin, I'm going to talk about Kevin a bit. Who else?
Jeff O'Connor, sorry.
And I'm going to talk about Jeff in a bit.
Gary Burnett.
Hey, Gary. Gary's down in Nashville, all by himself since Danny left. So, Gary's great to have you. Gary's always there with us. Gary's another Vietnam vet.
Vince Wallen, W-A-L-N.
Vince Wallen. Jake, do you remember Vince Wallen?
Class of 2015 in Niagara Falls.
We didn't do a class in 2015.
You would have had classes.
Oh, but he would have been in the class, but he wasn't a combat wounded vet. Sorry, Vince. I apologize. Send me a little bio and I'll remember you.
And Jesse Bluefin on.
Hey, Jess. So Jesse was one of the first 2 Canadian veterans that we had. We had a hard time. He and Kyle Perrell from Newfoundland. And Jesse, who was RCR, and Jesse was involved, if you remember, there was a friendly fire incident in Afghanistan where an American A-10 accidentally fired on a group of Canadians and one soldier was killed. Jesse was wounded in that. But Jesse recently moved from Alberta to not too far away over in Nova Scotia, and we've got him doing some work for us. And I'll bring Jesse up in a little bit too because he's part of our giveaways tonight. So, anybody else, Ken?
That's it for now.
Jesse, by the way, came over and was my assistant in the class in August, and it was a fantastic addition to the class in so many ways. Now, Luther's ready?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to turn time over. Are they going to be able to see him or only hear him?
Oh, they can see him right now.
They see him? Okay, so I don't need to introduce him in this picture. Go ahead, Luther, it's all yours.
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to, I just lost the feed here. Hang on, let me, but I just wanted to tell everyone an update on our PHP Train to Hand classes. And so things are starting to change. We have our fingers crossed that this year might be the year that we can restart the classes. And I wanted to give everybody an update. Currently, each of the provinces in Canada has COVID restrictions, but they're starting to loosen. Of course, we're in New Brunswick. So right now, we're prevented from holding classes because of the COVID restrictions. However, the government of New Brunswick has announced that if things stay exactly where they are now or they get better, in March 14th, they're going to lift all restrictions. And that'll allow us to have classes again. Now, we've kind of been here before and had the rug pulled out from underneath our feet, so we're not counting that as it's an absolute positively going to happen. But it sure looks like the restrictions are lessening, and it's going to allow us to do the classes.
Date?
I guess I'm watching the show here and I don't see it, so that's messing my brain up.
You're on.
Okay, and so that's a good thing. if you've been watching the news, they're already talking about another version of Omicron. So, so things can change. The other issue is that the federal Canadian government still has its restrictions on crossing the Canadian border. Now, so if things stay as they are, that will really be the only restrictions for non-Canadians coming to our classes. But they're kind of restrictive, and those restrictions are: you must be fully vaccinated, period. You must have a negative COVID test issued by a medical facility 72 hours before crossing, and you must put together a 14-day emergency quarantine plan in case while you're in Canada, for whatever reason, the government tells you to quarantine. So we've canceled our scheduled 25 April class because it's just not for sure that this is going to happen in March. However, we are very, very hopeful that May and then the rest of the year will open up. And we'll make that decision if they, in fact, lift the restrictions on 14 March. So when we do that, we still have about 30 folks that have been paying customers for the Train the Hand workshop that we still have to get through. But that still gives us about 15 or so open slots. So you can just keep watching the website, and once we're pretty sure it's good to go, we're going to open up the classes month by month. We're not going to open them up all at once. We're just going to open them up month by month, just so we don't trip over our feet like we have before. If you are a PHP selectee, scholarship selectee, we currently have only 18 PHP scholarship selectees that can get across the border. So those 18 will fill up our first classes, and just like the civilians, we're going to open up, Dave and I are going to open up the applications for PHP in March if the restrictions get lifted as we think they're going to. And then what we'll do is we'll select for each class. So it's looking up. Watch the website, and once they're up, we'll have them have the classes open for purchase, or I'll have the application for PHP turned on. And that's all I got.
Good, thank you. And we're pressing the government and doing our part, so we'll collapse those restrictions. Promise you that. Okay, Moose, or Jake, you're in the, whatever your name is, son? Bo.
Looks like Sonic the Hedgehog. Here.
Okay, we ready? Give me a question, Frick.
Yep. Okay, this comes from Norman in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Norman in Albuquerque.
Yes.
Go ahead, Norman. What do you got?
Okay, Norman wants to know, what is the grit and method you use to polish a plane sole?
What is the grit and method that I use to polish a plane sole?
Yes.
I don't. I use wood and multiple passes over it. I don't polish the plane sole. And even if you did, it'll get all marked up soon enough. So now, if you're talking about if you're trying to flatten one, what you would do, I used to when I used to teach that class on how to do that great hand plane revival, I found excuse me, that if your grit was too coarse, it didn't bite. It wouldn't take the material off. So I used to use 120 grit paper made by Porter Cable. I'll show it to you. It's right here. It's self-adhesive. Well, that's actually 220, but you buy it in a roll that's 4 inches by whatever, and you just unwind it and it sticks on we'd use it on a granite surface, and I would use that to get rid of the material. And then if you wanted to go in, I suppose you could use 220, but really it self-polishes just from use. Okay? Next, Rick.
Okay, Tom in Spring, Texas.
Hey, Tom.
And he says, I see the thin shavings you have. How wide do you set the mouth on your plane?
Okay, so let's go through the process of sharpening the blade. And
Frick,
Yes.
are there any questions relative to sharpening down the list?
Sure there is somewhere. Haven't we seen enough of that?
you what?
Haven't we seen enough of that?
Haven't we seen enough of those?
Sharpening.
Oh.
I thought we just did a live on sharpening.
Well, I'm just going to do a quick one then, because we got to have the blade sharp. So here's my messy station. And I'm going to take the blade out of my, this is the standard blade, the OM, what is it? Original Manufacturer's Equipment, OME? So
OEM?
OEM.
OEM? Original Equipment,
Well, you would just say OE.
OE? I thought it was a 3-letter.
Well, it is if you're buying
Super Dave told me it
something.
was. It's got to be right. So what I'm going to do is use my Shopton lapping plate, and I'm going to go in. I've got a 16,000 grit on this side, so I'll just quickly flatten that. And I got a
Whoa.
Hey, what's going
You
on?
just, no.
What?
You just got to put that,
Oh, it fell off? Yeah, it fell off. I'll quickly bring that into shape.
oh, can you spray that down?
Why?
It hardens the
Well,
slur.
there's nothing left in the spray bottle. I don't even have enough here. Rex, he's gone.
Original equipment manufacturer. It is OEM.
OEM. Original equipment manufacturer. They say it backwards. Okay, so here, set my primary on there, elevate slightly, spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds. Detect a burr. Switch over to here. 4 fingers on the cutting edge to keep the pressure uniform across the width. Find the primary. Come up just a little bit higher than I did on the previous stone. Do these tight little circles. 10 seconds of work. At the end of 10 seconds, downward pressure in one corner for 3 seconds, and then the opposite corner for 3 seconds. Take
It's on the side.
Take my little steel rule. Set it. I always put it in the same spot. It's always flush with the right side of the blade.
Can you
Blade-
show them that rule once you're done?
Yeah. 3 seconds. 3 seconds to remove any burr. Burr actually usually falls off, but just in case. Now, so Jake got these for us.
Well, I'm talking about the shape of it.
Oh, the fact that it's,
Yeah, just lay it on there. No, the other way, like on its side, so they can see just how curved it is.
oh yeah. Well, it's just
And it's
yeah.
irrelevant because you
So
push
when
it
you
flat.
when you get yours in the mail, it may be bent like that, but it doesn't matter. Still works. Okay, put my chip breaker on. And I'm going to put it to within about a 32nd of an inch of the edge. And then snug that down. Now you want that good and tight. Where'd he go?
Well, I asked him to go get water, but I meant for the spritz bottle.
It's for the spritz bottle, Frick. You knew that,
I'll
right?
still take it.
Put that blade in place. Put the lever cap on. Any comments, Rick? You've done this a few times. Put your thumb on that adjustar and make that oh so easy adjustment. Now I'm going to pull something out of my pocket that you're going to want to have too, and that is plain wax. And that little bit of wax makes a huge difference when it comes to planing a piece of wood. It just reduces the friction. Now, what do you want to see? That's a piece of yellow cedar, and this is a piece of figured maple. So we'll put that in. Now, when you're planing, It's a nicer edge. When you're planing a piece of figured wood like that, what you're looking at is grain that is running like this. So you've got a band here that measures from about here to here, the grain's going that way, and then from there to there, the grain's going that way, and it's alternating. So when you plane, half the time you're planing against the grain, the other half you're planing with the grain. Impossible to stop every quarter of an inch and go the other direction. Terribly impractical. So what we can do to combat that, and this is answering the question in a long roundabout way, is A, we want to have a really sharp blade. That's the foundation for everything. No other technique works if the blade's not sharp. And I'm going to take you over here for a quick commercial. So here's what you want. Got two different systems. The least expensive system, which I would call the good system, is a diamond plate that's double-sided. It's got a 300 grit side and a 1000 grit side. You need a heavy holder, and that's that big, that thing weighs about 4 pounds. And on top of that, you're going to put your 16,000 grit stone. Now, you start your sharpening process on the 1000 side. You use the 300 grit side to keep this one flat, 3 to 5 seconds before every sharpening. That sits on top of there. However, you're using metal that rusts with a water stone. So you can't use oil, which is what you typically would use here, on that. So we have this stuff called Hone-Right. It's a water additive. This little bottle makes a little better than 1.5 gallons when mixed with water. And that inhibits water from rusting metal. So you spritz that on, and that's your lubricant. Now, I suggest you get a 6,000 grit stone as well, so when you're doing the backs of your chisels, you start here, you go to the 6,000, and you finish with the 16. That's the good system, by the way, and there's your steel rule, and it doesn't have any of those little serrations in it, so it makes it a little easier to use. If you want the very best system, then you have a heavy holder, you have a 1,000 grit stone, you have another heavy holder with a 16,000 grit stone, and you use the Sharpening lapping plate. Now the Sharpening lapping plate is a heck of a lot more expensive than the one I just showed you. Its only purpose is to keep these flat, but dead flat. And you pay for that precision. You don't need to Hone-Right with this one. You can just spritz with water. So your call. Both, one gives you a good edge, the other one gives you a fantastic edge. All right, let's go over here and prove it. So you can see how open that throat is.
I can see it.
You see it? Okay. So if I wanted really tight control, and just tell you real quick what I'm doing, or I'll show you. Here's your cutting edge. Here's your blade coming along like this, digging into the wood. And this is going to represent this part of the plane. So that part of the sole right there, directly ahead of the blade. As you move them closer and closer together, then what happens is, without it, when you start going against the grain, the fibers are going to start to dig down in and lift up. But if you move that throat closer and closer, so that you just have a gap the thickness of the shaving, now the shaving can't lift up and tear because the weight of the plane is bearing down on it, and that prevents that tear out. So the advantage of a bedrock is, with everything assembled, you come in, you loosen the 2 outside frog retaining screws. Doesn't take much more than 1/4 of a turn. And then using that center screw, you're going to turn it, and that will move the entire apparatus forward. In this case, this is where I want to go, is forward. And I'm looking down. I've got the light colored bench top to help me. And when I get that throat right where I want it, I'm going to tighten the 2 outside frog retaining screws. Now, I'm going to flip this over and see where the blade is. Well, the blade's out quite a bit. Now, why did that happen? Well, you may not have known this, but the frog sits on a ramp. So as you move the frog forward, it's going to advance the blade. So you usually have to turn this around and pull that blade in again and get it back to being parallel to the sole. And I want it just at the point where it's essentially at the same height as the bottom of the plane. And then when I look in there, so, oh, no, that's a little too wide yet. So I'll go back in and do this again. Take that down a little bit tighter. I hope those are all $51 donations coming in.
Can you specify?
No.
No, you can't. You have to do a 50, and we'll throw in the one for you.
Or you can round it up to 100.
Or you can round up to 500. Okay. Now let's get that. I'm using my lateral adjustment lever right here. That skews the blade to the left or right to get it parallel to the sole. When I can just barely see the blade, I'm going to pull it a little bit more, so I'm retracting it, bringing it all the way in. I've already waxed the sole, and now
Is your throat closed?
the throat's closed down pretty tight. Yep. I'm going to start spinning the adjuster knob. Now you'll notice that I've got shaving on one side, so I'm going to take my lateral adjustment lever and I'm going to move it just a little bit. So if the shaving was coming out on the right side, I'm going to push the lateral adjustment lever to the right, because what that will do is that'll spin the blade like this, causing the left side to dip down. Now, if you can see, it's still heavy on the right, sorry. So I got to do another little adjustment. I'm going to retract it a little bit. I can take a lighter cut than that. And when you buy a plane from us, Rick will send you, how many? Oh, just one? Oh, you get one test shaving as evidence that he did it. So I can pull it in a little bit more. So where should we measure one
You're
of
a
these,
little
Jake?
heavy on the right. Do it again.
Yeah, so by the way, Jake just noticed something. You see how that's turned to the right? Well, that means that the shaving is thin here, thicker over here. So I'm going to move it just a little bit more. Oh, I went too much.
I don't know where your your micrometer is.
Not here?
I don't see it.
It's down the bottom. The Michitoyu, is there anything in it?
Yeah, it works. That's not it.
That's not it? What do you mean I don't have it?
You do. It's in one of those drawers. Just grab your calipers.
No, I want my, I was just going to measure this for you
Oh, you know what? It's in your toolbox.
over here. Excuse me, Rick. Here it is. See you guys. Moose, you going to say anything?
He'll probably throw up on you if you wanted to.
Well, aim that way. Bye, Moose. Okay, so this is a digital Michitoyu. I pronounced that right, Chris? Michitoyu. Where's my on button? The batteries are dead. Oh, for crying out loud! What?
I quit.
It's supposed to shut off. See, yeah, that one goes 5 zeros past the decimal, so I used to be able to pull them off. The best we ever did was 0.2 of a thou. My other one's over here is just in thousands. That's not going to be very impressive. Let me just guess on it. That would have come in at about, that would have been come in at about 0.8, so 0.0008. If I could verify it for you, would. Run your hand over that. Come here, Chris, please. I want you to run your hand over that, and I want you to describe it to them.
And you can't say
Wife's
smooth.
hand the first time you held it? Oh, better.
Better. That's probably smoother than glass.
Yeah, and he's an engineer. You got to believe him. If not, he'll tell you all the details. So that's the kind of surface that you can get with a sharp plane. So when you hold it up to the light, you get to see the reflection of the ceiling. So if that's what you want, get yourself the good stones, a decent plane, and follow the technique. It doesn't take long. Okay, next question, Frick.
All right, next question comes from David Moore in Austin, Texas.
Hi, David.
Are there any advantages to using a plane pulling instead of it pushing it like the Japanese planes?
Well, you know what? Sometimes, shall we see if we can turn this around just as a, I was just thinking. So now we're going to go in the other direction and see if we can get the same results. Yep. You can pull. Now I don't do that. However, when I'm using a scrub plane is the plane that we use for prepping stock. I will often, just to give my arm a rest, because you're really moving a lot of material with this, I'll turn it around and I will pull it. But is there actually an advantage to the technique of planing a piece of wood by pulling it? Not that I can think of.
I think it would be cumbersome.
Well, I mean, the Japanese do it, and it's their style, and that's the way they work. But, and if you like that, by all means do it. But I prefer Western style woodworking.
But they usually use wood-bodied planes, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is it's heavy. This is a heavier plane, and if you had to start with the heavy end out beyond you.
I see what you're saying. Quite possibly. Never thought of it. Next, for any more vets, Ken? Well, I need to talk. Oh yeah, let's talk for a second. How many? What are our numbers, Frick?
822.
Okay, so let me tell you this.
Rich?
What? So as a way of rewarding you for participating and helping us with our Purple Heart project, we give away gifts. Has the sign up been on throughout the night?
Yep.
Okay, so we have a giveaway. And a couple of months back, I started working with 4 vets and now a med as well. And we have a little business meeting we do twice a week. And Jeff O'Connor, who just on December 31st retired, was medically retired as an EOD in the Navy. That's explosive ordnance disposal. And Danny Bell retired. He was a helicopter pilot. He flew Chinooks, worked with Special Forces, and Danny retired last year, medically retired. Kevin Burris, who's an EOD with the Army, another Special Forces guy, and he retired, well, Kevin got retired, I think, as a result of an explosion. And Bob Abbott, and Bob's been retired a while. Bob's Air Force Intelligence, and Bob got blown up by a suicide bomber in Iraq. So the 4 of them are starting their own businesses. And my famous line is, I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you what not to do. Right, Moose? We know all the things that don't work. So anyway, what we do as a means of helping support them and promote their business, I'm really excited tonight because this is the first time, who am I talking to here? Which camera? This camera?
I don't walk around for fun.
Well, I thought you wanted to see.
We have to change the battery in the other one, so.
So this is the first time we got a present to give away from Kevin Burris. So we pay retail, we buy gifts from these guys, and that's what we use as giveaways. So for every $1,000 increment that we raise, we give away one of these special gifts. So I'll start over here. So Bob makes cutting boards as one of his, you can check out his site, we'll put up a link, and it's thevintageveteran.com. Now that link is on our site, so in case you need it. So this is called the Drunken cutting board. And if you think about it, it's quite complicated. There's 2 layers, so this one and that one. Jake, you're missing me.
Sorry.
You need to pay attention
I got it.
here. Okay. And this one is called the, don't tell me. This one is called the tumbling block. So these are all pieces of solid wood. You can go ahead and try to figure out how it was made. It's heavy. Really nice board, my favorite. So we give away one of those, and that's the vintageveteran.com. RobCosman.com, and that is Bob Abbott, affectionately known as Bobbert. Now, Jeff does these, and these are really cool. I have one, and I pay my son Bo to give me the hot towel straight edge shave, and we use ours that was made out of bog oak. This is you. So Jeff turns the bowl for the, put a nice little, his little seal on the bottom. This is made out of Pacific yew, and this is soap that's made by a friend of his, handmade soap, and that's your brush. Now that is actual badger hair. And that's, I think, is a really nice touch the way he has it on there. So that's set, and these gifts are all in the $300 to $400 range. This is another one. This one's made out of oak. Now, these are going to be different gifts. I'll talk about them in a minute. So here's Kevin's. So Kevin, who was severely wounded, the last bomb that took him out was a 1,500-pound IED, and that left him pretty much incapacitated. He had to learn to walk and talk and the whole bit. But Kevin specializes in, he has a big, powerful laser engraver. This is slate, and he makes the display rack. So this is obviously the U.S. flag, and this is D-Day. I think this is Omaha Beach, but I just happen to have a bag of sand that came off of Utah Beach, and that was sent to me by a friend. So we're going to have a nice display with that because I'm keeping one of these. So this is, I'll take it off and show you. This is a piece of 1/2-inch thick slate, and that's not painted. That's laser engraved on there, so that's etched on there. And we've got a couple of these different scenes, but this is probably my favorite one. So those are the 3 gifts, the big gifts. Now, Jesse Rufiange, who's also combat wounded veteran, has started a business, and I thought these were really cool. So he had sent me some of these. So these are stands. So if you're like my kids who spend every waking minute watching their phone, you can either see it in this mode or in this mode. But isn't that cool? It's very nicely made. That's one made out of ash. This one's made out of a piece of walnut and maple. So we'll give away a couple of these tonight, just as a little extra gift, in the same way that we give away 3 of the dead cat sweaters. So Moose helps us out, and these are the dead cats with the Purple Heart logo on it. We also have golf shirts, since if you want to start thinking warm, you can have your pick between the Purple Heart, the dead cat, or the golf shirt. And I just wanted to mention this because I forgot. So my nephew, my brother Dave's son, Jared, plays in the Quebec Major Junior League, that's a big deal. Moose, give them 2 seconds on the Quebec Major Junior League in terms of hockey.
Well, it would be equivalent to playing NCAA Division I in the States. So it's kind of the step before
The NHL.
It's kind of the step before the big leagues. So if you're playing there, you're almost as good as us.
Almost.
I can't say anymore.
So Jared was drafted by, I can never pronounce it.
No, never mind.
Say it again.
Rouyn-Noranda.
Rouyn-Noranda, which is a city, the most northernly franchised in the Quebec Major Junior League in northern Quebec. So go to Montreal and then just keep driving north. Anyway, so that was when he was playing for the Fredericton Canadians, and they had a special night where they were honoring the military. So I bid on that jersey and got it. And if you look closely at all the scenes that came out of Canada's involvement in Afghanistan. So I decided to put that up there. I've had it for a while. All right.
I put with spring coming, I put the golf shirts on for $30. They were $42.
So if you go to PatSecretGarden.com, you can get the golf jerseys are on sale, and you can also find the dead cat if you're not lucky enough to get one. And you can find this. Have you got any happy sweaters left?
Yep.
Oh yeah, check out the little happy sweaters on Moose's website. Cutest little things for kids. Okay, Frick, next.
All right, next question.
What were you going to say?
Ken, who you got? Who?
Kyle Corral.
Kyle, brother. Kyle is a Afghanistan veteran, Canadian veteran, and he lives in Newfoundland. And Kyle, as one of our scholarship vets, built and delivered, and it was a long drive. You don't go anywhere in Newfoundland quickly. Newfoundland is this huge rock in the middle of nowhere and has a road around the outside. And it's not easy driving, but he built it for Eric. Pronounce Eric's last name for me, please. Helmerson. I know it's not hard to say, it's just when you see it written. And Eric joined, he was in our class in August. Eric joined the Canadian Army at age 49 and kicked all the young kids' butts. And he actually fought, he was injured in Afghanistan. He actually fought under his son, right? His son was at one point was his superior. So anyway, so Kyle built the bench and delivered it to Eric. And that was fantastic. Got over to meet him and wonderful. Glad you're here. Anybody else? Oh, and Angie. How could we forget? So buried back here because things got arranged recently. This is Angie. Now Angie is Ken's cousin. And Angie and her sister Lynn do all of the packaging of our Purple Heart t-shirts, which you can get. And when you get them, they'll come neatly packaged with a little seal on there with Angie's A for approval. And Angie, as soon as she gets better, is going to come out and work here. She's got her locker waiting for her. Probably needs to be cleaned. But big salute to Angie and a big thank you. Gina's on. And Gina's on. So Gina just recently got advanced. Gina Crilly, who's been in shipping for 2 years? Yeah. Holy Toledo. Gina's now in charge of customer service and
Inventory?
What else do we call it? Inventory. So she takes care of the whole thing. And if you didn't know, Luther came up, spent a week, and blew the place up. And when everything fell back down to the earth, it was all nicely organized. So we don't even recognize the place out there. But Gina keeps it nice and neat. And Gina and Pam is Ken's wife. The two of them do all of our shipping. So if your order comes to you nicely packaged, safely packaged, and on time, you can thank those two.
Chris got your midgetory working, so.
Oh, you did? Oh, now you're going to test me? Where'd the shaving go?
Oh, fancy that.
Well, oh, now I got to search around and find one that is, what did I say? 8 or 7?
8/10.
8/10. Okay, let's zero it in. So there you go. Now, Jake, can you stretch that so I don't get a wrinkle?
That's a low spot.
Yeah, I'll be sure. So when you do this, you turn the back end and it has a ratchet. Hey, this isn't working. How come this not registering?
Like I said, Chris fixed it.
Chris, what's going on with this thing?
Probably have to turn it on.
No, it's on, but it's not. I'm going to give it to Chris. See if he can fix it. I'm not getting any numbers. If you can, you fix it
Is
and
it
bring
on
it back
hold?
to me.
It's like the caliper, sometimes you have to reset it after you change the
No.
Nope. Next one, Fred.
All right, next question comes from Kent Moore in Renfrew, Ontario.
Hi, Kent.
He says, what accessories do you consider essential for use with hand planes, shop made or purchased?
Oh, yeah. You know, but yeah. Did we ask him
Are
to
these
ask that
planted?
question? Holy Toledo. Well, if you're in Canada, and you're in luck, because due to Jake's wise planning, while everybody else is dry on hand planes, we have lots. He had been ordering and on a consistent basis, even though there was none in stock and they didn't even know when they were going to come in. When they did come in, they filled all of our orders while everybody else was now scrambling to get them. So we have lots of 5.5s. Any idea, Ken, what we have in inventory right now for 5.5s?
50 some?
130.
130. Nice try. So get one of these and have Rick set it up for you. So I would say that the first, Rick, you argue, you tell me if you think otherwise. Is it working? Okay. The adjustar. If you're over 50 and you don't have an adjustar, you're suffering and you don't need to. And then the next would be the plain wax. I have people call and tell me all the time. And by the way, we found that because of Kevin Burris. Kevin led us to that. We had the guy match our formula. I think it took 3 tries to finally get it. We wanted something that was hard enough that it wouldn't gum on the sole, but soft enough that it would leave you a bit of a film. So, yes, you're plain first. I'm going to stay away from stones because we're just going to talk about planes. Your adjustment screwdriver. So what's critical about this is whereas normal screwdrivers taper
Right here.
from top to bottom. Do you see how it tapers? It's wide here and it gets narrower. So when you put that into the brass screw, all the pressure's on the top lip and it tends to bugger them up. Whereas these, because they're straight that last little bit, they make contact all the way down and it doesn't do that. So, and we tape them like this so you can get a good grip. Again, one of the problems with the fancier screwdrivers you buy, I mean, Lee Nelson makes beautiful screwdrivers, but the problem is you can't get any torque on that. That is such a smooth, it's not possible. So I always had to tape mine up. You can see how dirty they are, but if you didn't do it like that, you weren't able to use it. So these are a must. I'm going to throw this in because most people don't have the luxury of having a shop that's heated all the time. So this is a plain sack. It's a silicone impregnated tube sock that you just put your plane in, and then you don't have to worry about rust. You don't have to wipe off oil. You just use that. And if you do get rust, then the Luther Sandiflex, I'm not sure how he gets that, but that's what he calls it. That's the greatest thing for getting rid of rust. Works like a charm. Now, once you learn to use a hand plane, then you, oh, here, let's measure that first. Quick little commercial here. So we're going to see how thick this piece of maple came out. The first thing I got to do is I got to zero it in. So 0. Now we'll put the shaving in here. Can you turn that, Jake? Mm-hmm. There's a ratchet on the back end. Yep. So that you're not trying to squeeze the shaving excessively. Oh, I was wrong. I'm out of shape. So this is 0.00055. So it's essentially a half a thou. I got to get these recalibrated.
Now, you still can't ship Wood River into the States, right?
No. No, you'll have to find yourself a Canadian friend or relative. Okay, so back to where we were. Once you learn to sharpen, then how do you take that skill and translate that into better work? I'm going to give you an example. I keep it here to remind me. So when I built my... When I built the standing desk, I screwed up one of the drawers. I kept it only because I had to steal the front off of this piece of wood, so when I made the replacement drawer, it blended in with everything else. But I cut it apart to show you. So because of some little tiny inaccuracy somewhere in the squaring up of the pieces, see, I cut this, and do you see what happened? That piece should be up here. But there was just enough twist when it was assembled that it was out by that much, and you lost that perfect fit as a result. Now, I can blame all kinds of things for it, but something I didn't do something right somewhere along the way. So if you want to get accuracy, then you need a shooting board. And the advantage of a shooting board is that it will hold your plane and your workpiece at right angles, but at right angles in 2 dimensions. So let's say I'm building a little box. I need that to be square. I've already got my edge nice and straight, so I put that against the fence. Who makes these? Harold and Tony. Harold and Tony. So Harold Snodgrass has worked with us now for 3 years? 2 years anyway. And Harold's a retired cabinet maker, had some health issues, closed his shop. Then he found out that he was going to continue to live, so he came and worked with us. And Tony Bahadur, Tony's a combat wounded vet that works here 2 days a week. So Harold makes these shooting boards, and we offer them in a 24-inch, which is what mine is, 24-inch front to back, which means the longer they are, the greater capacity you're going to have in here. We offer a right-hand version and a left-hand version. We offer an 18-inch, right hand and left hand. We offer a mitered version, left and right. Now these allow you to get a perfect miter, and that sandpaper's on there so that it won't slide on you. And we do the little mini shooting board that you can use with your block plane. But here's what you do. First thing you're going to do is pull your board out from this end, and you're going to go in and you're going to cut a little chamfer right there. Now I flip it around so the chamfer's on the back side. And as you can see, I have a gap right here. And that's going to prevent me from breaking fibers. Now let me just show you what I mean by breaking fibers. If I didn't do that, this is what happens. See that? See that stuff breaking off on me? Well, if you cut your little chamfer first, that won't happen. And what you do is you plane. Now you have to stop before you run out of chamfer, or else that will negate what you were trying to do. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see it, Jake? Can you see where this chamfer stops?
Yeah.
Chamfer's right there. So I can probably safely take one more pass. Did I go too far? Maybe not. Now I've got a nice, clean, hand-planed end. So if you got a good shooting board, this is going to be square in this direction and in this direction. So instead of me putting this in my vise and having to balance my plane on that thin piece of wood and balance it both this way and that way, my shooting board, which is already set up, allows me to bring my pieces over, square that up, and it allows you to get within 1/1000th of an inch in woodwork. Well, all that means is fantastic precision. So, in answer to your question, you list these off. A shooting board has to be the first thing you either make or buy once you've learned how to sharpen a hand plane.
Now, we have 13.
Oh, I'm going to tell that story? Is that what you're going to do, 13? So in the process of building the shooting boards, we ended up running into, we use Baltic birch and MDF and Osage orange. And sometimes, Ken, am I correct in saying that? It's usually a flaw in the Baltic birch? It creates the seconds?
Well, either that or an imperfection in the fence.
Like
Usually, yeah.
torn grain.
So when they make plywood, and there's a knot hole, they'll put a patch in there, and the patch doesn't always come out nice. Well, so we ended up with a whole bunch of shooting boards. We make a lot of shooting boards, but we hadn't been selling the seconds because we had to build the website and a whole bit. So we had quite a few that had, either a patch that didn't look very nice, so we couldn't sell it as a first, or there might have been a corner dinged or something. But functionally, they work fine. So they went on sale last night for the first time. If you're on the newsletter, that's how you find out about this stuff. And Jake tells me we have 13
Of those.
13 of the right 24s left. Sold all the 18s, and there was, how many did we sell?
26.
26, and how many of the other ones?
10 so far.
So there's a few left. Any miters left?
Yeah. And mini.
And minis. So if you go on there, there's a bunch, and they're being sold. This sale was 15% off.
The already discounted price.
Yeah, we discount how much?
20% for factory section.
So 20% off the retail price for factory seconds, and we took another 15% off of that. So knock yourself out.
Somebody wants you to make a shooting board for mitered edges.
Yeah, so I'll do that. So what he's talking about is where you would miter it this way, as opposed to a flat miter where you're mitering it that way. We'll get into that. Good suggestion. Any more vets? Question for Rick?
Yep. This next question comes from Scott in Florida.
Hi, Scott. I miss Florida.
We'll be back.
We're usually there this time of year.
That's right. Where can I buy a scrub plane, and approximately how much are they?
Oh my. There's just what?
Keep going.
Well, my first recommendation would be a Lee Nielsen, but I don't think you're going to get one. My second one would be an original Stanley 40 and a half. So the Stanley 40 was the junior version, 40 and a half was the adult version. But you're going to pay as much for that as you would buying a brand new Lee Nielsen. What you shaking your head about, Jake? No, what?
They don't have them.
Lee Nielsen doesn't have any? No, I'm sorry. I don't know where you're going to get them. There's just been the perfect storm between all of the crap you hear about supply chain. I think it's mostly because the demand was huge. For 2 years, people couldn't go anywhere. So they're looking for something to do at home. So woodworking is a home-based hobby. And you've got all this unspent travel money, and people just went crazy. I know that firsthand. Our business grew by a multiple of about 5 over the last 2 years as a result of that. So these guys, I mean, you set your business up to produce this much demand. Well, if all of a sudden the demand grows like that, you don't have the capacity to catch up to that. So, and then you just spend years trying to get caught up. And I don't like any other brands, in case you're wondering. I like those two. Next, Rick.
Okay, next question comes from John Hennick in Michigan.
Hi, John.
He says, I have 2 planes, Wood River block plane, low angle, and a 5.5. What would be your next
Good
choice?
start.
What would be your next choice to buy, and could you show the order you would buy planes?
Really good question. Really good question. Thanks for asking it. You're jogging my memory. So, I'm answering this question from 2 perspectives. The first one is frequency of use, and second one is function. So how many planes do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
What happened to your 5/8 shoulder?
I don't know. I've got 18 hand planes here. This is the one that I use probably 90% of the time. So the 5.5 would be your first plane. If you weigh 130 pounds or less, you might want to consider a 5, same length, a little narrower, has a 2-inch blade instead of a 2 3/8. I still think you can use a 5.5. I love this plane because it has the mass that makes it really good as a hand plane in a smoothing operation, and it has the length and the mass that makes it exceptionally good in the shooting board. And I demand that whatever one I'm using here works equally as good on the shooting board. That's the first purchase. Your second purchase is going to be what you bought, which is your low angle block. There are times when you have to have a one-handed plane. It's very difficult to use a plane like this to go in and cut a chamfer on a piece of wood. Possible, but most likely not comfortable. The third plane would be a 3/4 shoulder plane. Why? Well, there are functions that you have to do. For instance, if I wanted to come in and cut that shoulder, I can do it with this plane because the blade goes all the way to the side. I can't do it with this plane. Blade doesn't go all the way, nor does it on the 5.5. So when you think of trimming the end grain shoulder on a tenon, that's why this plane was developed. And the blade is always a little bit wider than the sole, so you can make it flush by simply pushing it down like this on a hard surface, and now it's flush to that side. And the 3/4, well, the 3/4 is going to cover 99% of the usage you're going to have for a shoulder plane. And the fourth plane would be a number 7, and the reason is, if you're going to flatten your bench, you're going to want the longest plane you can get. Remember, it's going to reach out, reference off all the high spots, bring them all down to one level. It doesn't do it on its own. But if you think about the amount of skill that would be required to do that job with this plane, it'd be vast. With this plane, it would be less. With this plane, it would be less. So those are the 4 that cover the bases. You can add to it over time, but get those, and you'll probably be a really happy camper. Good question. Next. Everybody get registered for the draw. I'm going to go say it one more time. We're going to give away a special gift on every 1,000. Where are we with the donations, by the way? Does anybody know?
I'll track it.
Who is?
Jake will find out.
Okay, for every 1,000, we're going to start off with giving away Kevin's slate engraving, American flag, Utah Beach. Now, if you're Canadian and you want a Canadian flag, I have one of the Canadian flag, and it has, what's the name of the ship that's on it? Famous Canadian frigate, I think it was. It fought both in World War II and in the Korean War. And it may actually have been involved in another one. I can't remember. I got to study up the history on it. So we'll give you the option if you're Canadian. That'll be our first gift. Our second gift will be one of Jeff's shave bowls and brushes. Third gift will be the tumbling block cutting board. And then we're just going to give away 4 freebies. 3 of them will be dead cat sweaters, and 1 will be one of the cell phone holders made by Jesse. So sign up. Doesn't cost you anything to sign up if you'd like to donate to help, because we got classes coming. I know it. I'm going to make a bold prediction that we're going to be teaching our first class in May. Mark my words. And I will stomp hard enough to make sure that happens. Go ahead, Frick.
All right, just a public notice first before I read the question. For everyone to smash the like button. We're low on likes, so.
3,200 so far.
Okay, so we just gave away 1 of each of the big ones. That's awesome. And we'll just start over. So if we get 4,000, we'll go back and we'll give another one of the Kevs and work our way across. So hit the like button for whatever reason you hit those. Go ahead, Frick. Give me a question.
Drago Dichev in Santa Barbara, California.
Drago in Santa Barbara.
Do you ever use a tooth?
Frick was married in
San Diego.
San Diego, close.
Do you ever use a toothed plane blade, and when would you use it?
No, I don't. Supposedly you use it for stock removal and it reduces tear out. Close your throat down, sharpen your blade. If you have to, put in a high angle blade. I've never been a fan of the tooth blade concept. Not that it doesn't work, I just, nah. High angle blade is where you just take a regular, got one here?
Yeah. It's that IBC.
First one? No.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
No, it's right here. It's got HA on it. So this says HA, stands for high angle. So what I've done, if you look closely, can you see that? I've put a 20-degree back bevel. Can you able to see? So when that sits in the plane, the blade is sitting at 45 degrees on the frog, but with an additional 20 degrees here, your effective cutting angle goes from this to that, which is 65 degrees. Much harder to push, but very effective in dealing with woods that otherwise would tear. When I say hard to push, it's a lot harder to push. That's why I don't leave it in there. I only use it if I need it. Next, Frick.
Okay, next question comes from Herbie Grief in Northeast England.
Hey, Herbie.
He says, what are the pros and cons between modern power routers versus router-type planes?
Sound. If you're using a router with a straight cutter, and you're trying to go in and make sure the bottom of a dado is uniform from one side to the other, you know what's going to happen as you're pushing that thing along. And if you're in the middle of the board, it's hard to have a fence. Yes, you can set one up, but you always run that risk of having it get out of control and you go over and you hit one side or the other. Noise, vibration, danger. Makes me think of Tony when he put a router bit in the drill press and chewed himself up. Use a router plane. It might not be as fast, but this is not a race. Hey, Mickey.
Hi.
But this router plane is cordless. You adjust the depth. You lock it down, and it allows you to go in with a tremendous level of precision and control. So noise and control would be the 2 biggest issues. You're not going to have this thing get out of control on you and start smashing into the sides. So yeah, no comparison. Great tool. And I would add that, not a conventional plane, but in response to the chap's question, I would put that probably right here in number 5. Moose, you want to say something?
Yeah, he wants to go home.
Which both of them do.
Both of them are saying wrap this thing up.
8 minutes, 9 minutes. Next, Frick.
All right, next question.
When you go there and get a little cameo. They like their grandfatherly type. Like to see the moose and watch them grow.
Camera shot.
All right, question comes from Pat in Pennsylvania.
Hey, Pat.
He's dealing with unruly, curly bird's eye maple.
I was going to say kids.
What are the must things to consider to get clean shavings?
Unruly, curly maple or birch?
Bird's eye maple.
Bird's eye maple? Oh, you know what? I don't think I've ever planed a piece of bird's eye that I had to do anything other than have a sharp blade. I don't close the throat. I don't increase the pitch. So I answer this type of question a lot. When we go to the wood shows, it comes up frequently. And I can't think of a time when the problem wasn't the sharpening. So you need to really go in and examine your sharpening and make sure that it is spot on. Because you should be able to I closed the throat down on that piece. I didn't have to. I could have planed that. Sharp blade, very light pass. Heavier the pass, the more pulling it does on the wood fiber. And when that stuff is squirrely, it doesn't have the same integrity. Like, for instance, a burl is not going to be nearly as strong as a piece of straight grain lumber because those fibers are just not connected the same way. So I would check your sharpening. Second, I would check your setting to make sure you're taking a very light pass. Then I would throw in the closed throat or the high pitch. But check your sharpening. It's almost always a sharpening issue.
Kevin Burr says the Canadian flag has the HMCS Haida on it.
Haida. Thank you, Kev. So the Canadian one, if we get over 4,000, is looks just like that one. It's got the Canadian flag and it's got that ship on it. And you look that up, you'll find a little history on it. Where are we? Couldn't have got there that far, that fast. Okay, next, Frick.
Next one comes from Mahesh Chander in Georgia, United States.
What's his first name?
Mahesh.
Mahesh?
Yeah. I'm out of lateral adjustment trying to get my blade parallel with the sole. I've checked and my plain blade edge is straight. What's the deal?
So I don't know what kind of plane he has, but he's trying to get his blade parallel to the sole, and he's got his lateral adjustment moved all the way over and doesn't have any more room. So sometimes what you have to do is your frog may not be coplanar to the sole. So you may have to tweak that a little bit. If not, you're just going to have to go in and you're going to have to grind your primary bevel, grind your edge. And so if it's square, meaning your edge of your blade is actually square to the side, and that's not allowing you to go all the way, then you're going to go in and you're going to have to modify that to fit. So you may have to take a little more off of this corner, and that's no longer square, but at least when you put it in, and it should be parallel when your lateral adjustment lever is in the middle. So you have room to go one side or the other. So no big deal, just customize your blade. By the way, when you do that, go in and actually blunt off the end. In other words, don't try to bring down this corner by grinding like this. You want to go in on a wheel like that, blunt it off, and then put it up like this, and then grind back until it comes to a point again. Otherwise, you risk burning that little thin edge. Okay, Frick, next.
Yep, next one comes from Kevin Windsor in Bethel, Maine. He says,
Kevin.
How do you
Hey,
deal
Bethel,
with...
Kevin, I just got an order from Kevin the other day.
Yeah, how do you deal with backlash in the adjuster? Seems like there is slop where the yoke intersects the blade and where it intersects the adjustar.
So you just got to chill. Can't get too worked up about it. And I'll tell you the reason why. If you try to, so backlash is this. Mickey, hey, Mickey, you want to say hi to the folks? Want to say hi to the folks in the camera? Say hi. Hi. Well, they're up there. Tell them who's the best grandfather in the whole world.
Bob.
He's at a loss.
It's Bob.
It's Bob. Yeah. Make sure Bob's watching, Frank.
Yeah, I will.
All right. Now you can leave. Get. It is my leave.
Come here.
So if you were to, what they're talking about, in case you don't know, is, so this, I'm turning it this way, and this is retracting the blade. Now to advance the blade, watch how much this spins before I start making contact that way. So you're always going to have what's called backlash. Nice thing about this is you can just hit it like that and it goes rather quickly. Well, you've got a little bit of slop of your adjuster or your adjustment knob on the threaded rod. You've got a little bit of slop.
Turn this way.
You've got a little bit of slop between where the ears on the yoke engage that slot. I don't have one here. That slot on the adjustar. You've got a little bit of slop in where the pin, the pivoting pin that rests on, and you've got a little bit of slop. So the end of your yoke comes up here and it makes contact in this rectangular hole, and there's a little bit of slop there. So there's so many places, and it just takes a little bit of slop in 5 places to add up to quite a bit. So really, you just have to just chill. Don't worry about it.
You don't even notice it with the adjuster.
No, with the adjuster, because you can just spin it and it'll go all the way to one and the other. So it's not like you're sitting there turning and turning and turning. So it's an inaccuracy built into the plane. If you wanted all of that eliminated, well, that's a whole lot of extra machining that's going to have to be done. Puts the prices up. So they've got to find that happy medium where this is acceptable and it keeps the price. And Lee Nelson's would have less, but Lee Nelson's would have sometimes just a quarter of a turn and sometimes almost 2 full turns. So just too many variables in it to eliminate it. Next, Rick. Is this the last one? Is my clock right? My clock says...
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me a second.
It's 8:58.
Huh?
It's 8:58.
Yeah, let's wrap it up because I don't have
Well,
one.
you don't have any more questions?
Well, I do. They're really
What?
they're really long.
No short ones.
No short ones? No, how old is Moose?
No questions are short.
How old is Ken? How tall is Rob?
We just figured out that when he graduates high school, Eric will be 52.
When he graduates high school, Erica will be 52. I'll be
Gross.
dead.
We're sitting under 3,400.
Okay, so we're giving away 3. So let's do our draw. Have you all ready to go?
No, just mention whatever you need to mention. I'll have it ready in a second.
Give a wrap up. So we'll give a big thank you to Moose for being here. He's been under the weather, but he's back on the ice Monday. Get your tickets.
What channel is it
Can't
on?
promise you there'll be room. What channel? They're fighting over it. It's a big thing. Sean's involved, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. So Moose is here. Chris is here. Chris is such a huge help to us. I met Chris, I don't know how many years ago. Because of Chris, we got a big machine built that Rick goes up to Fredericton and operates to get our handles even more precise, and now our brass and a whole lot of other things. Big thank you to Chris. Rick's here. Rick does all of the planes now and does a fantastic job on it, and just great. I've known Rick most of his life. He's good friends with his older brother. Ken. Okay, we'll skip Ken. Ken manages the shop, keeps everything working. In fact, he's got it working so smooth now, half the time he's not even here. But he only wanted to work part-time anyway 4 years ago. Megan's over here with little Moose, my grandson, number 6. We don't have any granddaughters.
5. No, 6. Yeah, you're right. Never mind.
Come on, Frick.
I forgot one.
Frick's good on math. He's in human resources, not accounting.
Payroll.
Behind the big green orb is Frick. And he's our chisel tester. He makes sure that everything is sharp. Of course, Luther's on there. Luther's Luther's the reason why our business is where it is. It's as simple as that. It drives me crazy with his organization because I'm the opposite of that. But we strike a happy balance. Super Dave's on there. So Super Dave and Luther take care of the PHP. Dave takes care of the first 3 classes of the year. Luther takes care of the last 3 classes of the year. So those boys have had the last 2 years off, so we put them back to work right away. We don't have any announcements yet on when people can apply, but stay tuned.
Oh, Ahmed's mallet. You never showed the mallet.
Oh, I didn't show them out. What, did he just say something?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so this is the mallet that I just got from Ahmed. He sent me. So one of my favorite woods is Brazilian tulip wood, and that's what that is. And if you've never worked this, when you plane it, it smells like roses. Most incredible smell. In fact, actually Vera wood smells great too, but I think this is the best smelling. It's awesome. And a lignin vitae head, so it's a really nice mallet that I'll probably never use because it's too pretty to use. But it does find a nice spot up here. I've got one here that he made that's bloodwood and tiger maple. Nice combination. I've got one here. This is a black and white ebony handle with a fiddleback maple head. And here's one with a bird's eye maple handle and a fiddleback head. Those are resin impregnated, by the way. So as soon as I hear the word from Frick, we're going to give away a tumbling block shooting board, a U shaving brush and bowl from Jeff. This one's from Bob Abbott. The vintage, oh, I forgot to mention, the vintageveteran.com. Jeff's site is O'Connor, OCONN.
OCWWVB. O'Connor Woodworking, Virginia Beach.
But he just uses O'ConnorWoodworking.com. He's got that now.
Oh, that's easy.
And Luther spells it ER, but it's not ER. So O'ConnorWoodworking.com. And over here, Kevin is Burris, BURAS, woodworking.com. And those are on our site if you need to find them. I've had people say before. And this is Jesse Rufiange, and I don't know if Jesse's got a website up yet or not. We'll find out. But somebody's going to get one of those tonight.
All right.
You ready, Frick?
We are ready. And
Okay, let's give away, let's start off with a dead cat, warmest garment you'll ever wear.
Okay, the chances of winning this evening, 1 in 657. Also, you'll notice our email address at the bottom. Gina has requested that if you are a winner tonight to email her, because a lot of the times she goes to email the people who win and it goes to their junk mailbox or it gets returned. So if you win tonight, please email the address that is on the bottom of the screen. All right, here we go. First winner is Chris Corba in Michigan.
Chris in Michigan, you're getting yourself a dead cat. You'll need it. You live in Michigan.
Number 2. Next winner is Patrick Goulet in Ontario, Canada.
Hey, Patrick, you'll need it too.
Okay, number 3.
Remember, you've got the choice of golf shirt or dead cat.
And the winner of the third one is Gene Dixon in South Carolina.
Gene, South Carolina, you go for the golf shirt. Okay, now we're going to give away 2 of Jesse's cell phone stands.
Okay,
First one.
First one goes to Catherine Strong in Tunbridge, Vermont. Or what's VT? Vermont?
VT is Vermont. Yes. Catherine in Vermont. Congratulations.
Okay, and next one is going to Michael Grinney. Just says United States, not specific. But
Hey, Mike.
Okay.
And you got one as well. Okay, so now the next gift, the next draw is
Frank,
for.
are we getting spam?
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh no, Kevin's is first, right? What?
apparently our live chat is getting
Spam in the live
spammed. I don't have it on the screen right now. You should be
So-
able to delete them.
So
Ken.
our next one is Kevin's laser engraving of D-Day, Omaha Beach,
Okay.
including the stand.
And that is
course.
that is going to Glen Allen in Wisconsin.
Hey, Glenn in Wisconsin, you're lucky, brother. Okay, now somebody's going to get a close shave with Jeff's brush and bowl. Where's that going?
That is going to Nas King in Dorset, UK.
Oh, wow. Well, we're going to send you some Pacific U. They have English U. Close cousin.
And those kids are lovely.
Congratulations. And the final gift tonight is a tumbling block from Bobbert. And who's it going to?
Grand prize winner this evening is Tony Latino in Florida.
Hey, Tony, in Florida.
We'll bring it to him
I'd
personally.
love to deliver it to you, but I think we'll have to send it by mail. Congratulations. And Santa Claus, Didn't mention it, I'm sorry. Santa Claus is a big supporter of our program, helps pay for the gifts that go out. We buy these at retail from the vets. I would encourage you, if you have need of a unique gift, whether it be an anniversary, a birthday, wedding, whatever, check out one of those 3 websites, vintageveteran.com, o'connorwoodworking.com, burriswoodworking.com. Show these guys some love. They do great work. You'll love it, and you'll feel good about your purchase.
And check out our Instagram.
Oh yes, Frick is now the Instagrammer. So we go live once a week on Instagram. You get to see some of the background chaos that happens in here, as well as keeping you up to date on whatever it is that we're doing that we take a picture of.
Yep.
And that's Frick's additional job. Okay, is that it?
Should be it.
We'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Thanks for joining us. And stay tuned to your newsletter, and we'll keep you abreast of whatever we've got coming. Hope to see you in 2 weeks. Take care. See you.